Kevin Bryan is with us this morning, a former detective with the York Regional Police Forensics Unit. He's in Tottenham, Ontario, and you may recognize him. He was on our network just yesterday, right after RCMP were updating the investigation. And he shared such excellent information, we wanted to make sure our morning viewers benefited from that expertise too. So, Kevin, welcome back to our program today.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning.
Good morning. I was struck yesterday when you said one of the things that stood out for you yesterday was the fact that there are these 16 crime scenes that police are going to have to look at. And I'm wondering if you could help us understand just the magnitude of that, how it would compare to normal, and whether we could be looking here at the biggest or one of the biggest, the most complicated crime scene investigations ever in the country.
Well, when you go into work as a homicide detective, a forensic detective, you head into work in the morning and all of a sudden a homicide comes in and okay, it's time to go. As the forensic officer, as the homicide officer, you know you've got a few days, at least a few days of intense work in front of you trying to, process the crime scene, trying to make sure your interviews are done and, get all your investigation on the go. When you walk in the morning and you've got 18 dead bodies and you've got 16 separate crime scenes, to me it's just overwhelming, and you've really got to slow things down and take your time, because processing crime scenes isn't about getting it done as quick as you can. It's about doing things properly and meticulously. And with that being said, when you go to these crime scenes, you're hoping you're going to find that piece of evidence which is going to solve the crime, whether it's something with DNA on it or a fingerprint, something along these lines. At least for the officers attending these crime scenes, there's not that pressure here. They have the suspect already out of the way. It's not something where down the road and you're going to have to go to court and be testifying as to the identity of the killer. We know who the killer is, and that part of it's already put to rest. So that takes a lot of the pressure off, and it also can slow things down for the officers. There's no rush to get those crime scenes processed. Where there is a rush, or where there is some type of urgency, is the scenes where there still may be bodies. And these would, probably be the scenes in which the fires have happened at. And
we
there's
learned
potential bodies at these scenes.
That's what we learned very clearly from police yesterday. 5 of these sites were structural fires, as we learned yesterday. So how will they go about investigating those scenes, and how much more complicated is it, Kevin, when it has been the scene of a fire? Yeah,
it depends on the extent of the fire, and I did see on the television yesterday. These are extensive fires. These fires were burned these houses were burned right to the ground, and with that being, it becomes much more difficult to investigate. With regards to us in Ontario, we would use members from the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office to assist us. They have the expertise in that fire training. So we would bring in members from the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office who would attend these homicide scenes with us, in which an arson was committed to destroy the evidence. They're excellent at sorting through the fires, determining origins and such like that, but they're also excellent at many of them, these investigators have excellent training in anthropology as well, identifying the bones. Because sometimes it seems you're not sure if something's, especially if it's been burned badly, it's hard to tell if it's a bone or if it's just something, that's debris in the room, so to speak. So I know we've had forensic anthropologists from the Center of Forensic Science even come to assist us at fire scenes in the past.
Those are the kind of gruesome details that we'll have to steel ourselves for as we get more information about this, and that's the kind of work that the officers are doing today. So thank you for helping us understand that. I'm wondering if something else stood out for you. We learned that there are a couple of CERT investigations going on, the Special Incident Response Team, involving use of force. There are 2, and then there was a third matter that's now been referred on to the RCMP. Did that raise any, alarm bells, or is there anything that we can understand in this that might give us any insight into what was happening over the weekend?
Well, CERT in Nova Scotia is equivalent to an SIU investigation in Ontario. It's a civilian oversight, which examines use of force between officers and a member of the public. In this case, I would imagine it's the deceased. However, that might not, they haven't come out, and details when it comes to specific details of the incident when it comes to gathering that from the SIU or from the CERT office. Sometimes it's very, very slow to come out. And I saw Chief Superintendent Chris Leather yesterday. He was hesitant to answer questions with regards to the link between what the CERT investigation was about, and that's because he's not allowed to. His hands are tied. It might not be because he doesn't want to. It's just because he's not allowed to speak. The information actually has to come from the CERT office, and sometimes it can be concerning, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's a formality, and it's something that is just the deceased. The suspect is deceased. It becomes a CERT investigation automatically, and that's happened in the past before too. We've had many shootings where the suspect becomes deceased at the hands of police, or even it doesn't even have to be at the hands of police. Sometimes it's in the presence of police officers, and just because the officers are there when the person either takes his own life or is shot and killed by police, it does become a CERT investigation. Where it might concern me, or where there might be some, and this is speculating, it could be how this, a CERT investigation might be going on as to how did this suspect come into possession of an RCMP uniform. That would be something that if it came from a member and was given to that might have been something that assisted in the killing of these people because they put the trust in that uniform. So there may be a CERT investigation as to where that uniform came from. I'm not sure, just something I'm speculating on, and could be on the decals on the police vehicle as well as where they came from. So that would be of a concern, but
that's an interesting point to raise. We hadn't heard of that, but certainly that's been a big part of all of this in leading to police. Was some of this planned, in that there was the uniform and there was this facsimile of a police cruiser, which certainly played a part in the fact that he was able to avoid detection for such a long time, we learned yesterday. Just before I let you go, because I will certainly be having these conversations again, obviously this is going to be a long and very complicated investigation, but the fact that we are now in this pandemic situation with the physical distancing requirements, not just of people wanting to mourn the victims, but of the police officers wanting to go about their investigation. How will this affect or perhaps even hamper the way they go about their work?
I don't believe the pandemic will hamper the investigation with regards to the police work. They're going to go do their interviews face to face. They won't concern themselves with I won't say that they won't concern themselves with with the distancing, but they're still going to go about their investigation as normal. Where things might become a little bit complex, it might slow things down with regards to the available personnel. You have 16 crime scenes here. 18 deceased persons, victims, and there may be some type of a slowdown with availability of personnel to investigate all these. I would imagine RCMP in Nova Scotia might have, 3 forensic teams, 4 forensic teams, maybe, because homicides don't come in like this usually.
Yes.
I'm sure they would take assistance from the Halifax Police Department, and Halifax has its own forensic teams as well. But even then, you've only got 4 or 5 teams to do all 16 crime scenes. This may take weeks or even longer to process the scenes.
We certainly had that indication, because they won't be able to get that help from across the country or even internationally as they would given crimes of this magnitude. Kevin, thank you very much again for this morning, and I'll look forward to another conversation with you as we continue to follow the investigative leads in this with you. Forensics expert Kevin Bryan from Tottenham, Ontario this morning. This is CBC News Network.